This is Justin Randolph interviewing Mr. William L. Waller Jr., Mr. Bill Waller, on August 2nd around 3:30 p.m. 2022, and we are in Jackson. Mr. Waller, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
So, Bill, you were talking about the first time you met RO or thought about RO. You want to go?
I was basically in charge of my dad's funeral. My brothers were a big help. We did it all together, but it was a pretty big deal, former governor, and it was so I was. I can't remember if I was coming in or going out. Anyway, I met R.O. Williams and I think another was Walter Crosby, and then the third I can't remember. Lewis Younger, and I just was blown away. They came, we'd had no connection with him in years, and in fact, they may have met him, but only incidentally. But they thought enough of him to come to his funeral. I just blew me away, and since that time we've kept in touch, and R.O. invited me to the reunion that they had that I saw you, and that was just a real important thing to me, and it's significant. It was Constance Slaughter that was honored Friday night at the reception. She obviously was very interested in it. She filed the lawsuit, but my memory is, and I was 19 when he was elected, so I think he did the transition with the 2 years into his administration. That would have been 74, so I would have been 22 then. But he didn't campaign for it. He quietly just did it, and he directed the Commissioner of Public Safety to start recruiting and hiring black highway patrolmen, and so as well as every other black official that was in Mississippi, and it was that was the first time that blacks were part of state government, that were employees of the state, that were not either housekeepers or cooks. So there were significant positions. There was the state institutions of higher learning, the board. There was a lot of state prison board. There was a lot of significant positions that were including the highway patrol. That was or the Department of Public Safety. That's what they called it. But there was no. He held no press conferences. He didn't make a big deal about it, and that probably facilitated the transition and kept it from becoming a spectacle, if you will, because he just, and I don't know if you went back history, but he had the first, in my opinion, serious prosecution of a civil rights crime in Mississippi, coming out of the prosecution of murder of Medgar Evers in '63, and so to him it was always people and us, and we're going to follow the law, and we're going to treat everybody the same. That was his mantra, and that's the way he operated. So,
great. Well, if we have time, I certainly want to circle back to sort of the Del Beckwith prosecution, because that's monumental, and it's I have to imagine was very important in his political career in an interesting way, because I could see it going. It could be a liability, or it could be really something that would help him. But I want to drill down on what you said about sort of the quiet. He did this quietly.
Right.
And I'm curious as to, was there also quiet resistance in the same way that he had to overcome?
There was some pushback, but I don't remember any. There weren't any protesters. There wasn't anybody that had a showdown at the office, and I don't. I as best I can tell, and I was fairly involved. I was very active in the campaign and in a lot of meetings where there were selections of people, and I just do not remember any significant pushback. Now, whether that had an effect on, he obviously was elected in '71. He wasn't elected for the Senate in '78, and he wasn't elected or reelected to be governor in '87. So whether that had an impact later that we didn't see earlier, I don't know, but I've never had anybody come up to me and say I am opposing your father because he wants to integrate Mississippi, or he wants to bring blacks into full citizenship or anything like that. I've never seen it. I'm not saying it's not there and there's not an undercurrent of it, but there's never been anything open about it.
Yeah. Well, thinking of like 71, 72, when the lawsuit's coming through, do you remember any press coverage or anything like that?
Mm-mm.
No.
Mm-mm. Unfortunately, practically everyone that was involved in that's deceased now, but if Charles McKellar, the press secretary, was alive, I think, but I really don't.
Yeah.
Justin, I mean, I don't remember. I don't remember it being covered by the papers. I don't remember. It was just quietly done. It was just done.
Yeah. Yeah. It strikes me that it doesn't seem like anyone made any political hay out of it.
Mm-mm.
Which I could also imagine being done, though maybe not at the beginning of a term, maybe at the end of a term. And you say you didn't remember it when he ran to replace Eastland in '78. Well,
I'm not saying that was actually, my brother and I were just talking about that. The people that supported Eastland, my father was the first one to qualify against him, and they believe that that's what eventually forced him not to seek re-election. And I really think that was more, not necessarily, it wasn't a racial thing, it was more Eastland supporters backlashing against him because they thought he had caused their hero, if you will, to not run for re-election again. So I don't think there was anything racial about that.
I see.
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't thought about. I don't guess I fully realized anyone expected Eastland to run again. How old was he?
He was. This is just an estimate. I think 78, 79.
Yeah.
He was old. I mean, he was. Of course, today I'm 70. I don't think that's old, but he was considered old back then when it happened. I mean, I could look it up and see what it is.
Sure.
But interesting, his son Woods Eastland, that lives in Indianola, was a real big supporter of mine when I ran for governor in 2019. Very progressive. The guys involved in the schools and underprivileged up in the Delta, and a lot of people consider Eastland a racist. I guess he came up in that era, but I never really saw him. But his son definitely has been a very positive influence in the Delta. I don't know if you've run across him any or not, but he's
only his name.
Yeah,
I don't know. So
yeah, very progressive guy.
Okay.
I mean, I was very impressed with him, and he's been. I think he's president of Staple Cotton, which is a large company, and he could live anywhere in the world. He came back to Indianola and was invested in the community, so that was good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll certainly have to look into that. Mr. Wall, have you ever had sort of an oral history done of you like this?
No.
All right. Well, you're a public figure, so I can find a lot of sort of basic things about you, but I just want to confirm what I found so far.
Right. No, there's no interest in oral history on my part.
Oh, now I hear that every day of the week it feels.
That's a normal response.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So last name Waller, Waller.
Correct.
William, William.
Correct.
Go by Bill.
Right.
L
middle initial.
Yeah. Lowe.
Lowe. We pronounce it Lowe.
Lowe.
Yeah.
Okay. And Junior, of course.
Yeah.
If you were filling out a demographic paperwork, this is going to be awkward because people can't see in the future when they're listening to this. You would select male on and white as your race.
Yes.
What would you put for religion?
Baptist or Protestant. Yeah.
Baptist. Okay. And has your family long been Baptist?
Long time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's not any ministers in recent history, but in rolling back to the 1700s now. On my mother's side, she had her grandfather was a missionary to Mexico in 1900 and was down there 20 years, and that was back when, obviously there was no facilities as we know it today, running water or anything, and he crossed the border not knowing any Spanish. So he was that was quite an undertaking back then. But so on my say more so on my mother's side, but they an interesting story. My mother's parents were interested in trying to, I guess, evangelize, for lack of a better word, the young people in Jackson. They thought everybody was, not active, and they went up to Chicago and met with. There was an organization started called Youth for Christ, and the newly hired executive director was Billy Graham, and this is before, the big Billy Graham. And so he said, it's real funny, he's got it in his book, his biography that he wrote, but he said, I'm sitting at my desk, I have a clean desk and boxes on the floor, and there's people from Mississippi come in to see me, and they want to know if I can come down and speak and to their young people, and not having anything else on my calendar, I agreed to come. So it's kind of interesting. But, it was. So we're members at First Baptist Church in Jackson. Interestingly, in that little clip that I gave you, he talks a little bit about when that was also when they integrated First Baptist, and he talks about that a little bit, and how that was important for churches to open to people of all races or whatever. So
right. So you grew up in the church?
I did.
Okay. Big part of your sort of week to week life?
It was, yeah.
Okay, great. Born February 9th, 1952?
Correct.
Here in Jackson?
Yeah. Had
4 brothers and sisters?
3 brothers and 1 sister.
3 brothers. And sister. All right. Dad's family, Lafayette County. Lafayette County.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Yeah.
He was a lawyer.
Yeah.
Born in 26, died in 2011.
That's right.
Went to University of Memphis, then the University of Mississippi Law School.
Correct.
Mother, Ava Carol Overton.
That would be my mother's mother. His was Myrtle Gatewood Waller.
Myrtle
Gatewood Waller.
Okay. Yeah, that's his mother.
Right.
Now, what's your mother's name?
She was an Overton, Carol Overton.
Carol Overton.
And her mother was a Watkins. That was who the missionary I mentioned. It was A.C. Watkins. So on that side.
Okay.
Going back to Constance Slaughter Harvey, she's from the same area that my grandmother's from in Scott County. And in fact, she was neighbors with a cousin that died recently, and I saw her at the funeral. So we always, in a fun, friendly way, we always say we're kinfolk. So I've visited her in her office that she has, and she's such a fine person.
Yeah, she's so inviting.
Oh, she's just wonderful. That was that speech. I don't know if you recorded it. I wish somebody had. That was really something.
Yeah, that's the problem. She doesn't write anything down. So you gotta.
If you don't record it, you don't get it.
Right. You just have to sort of commit it down to paper when you get home. So that's grandmother Watkins you're talking about from Scott County.
Right. No, that was the Gatewood.
The Gatewood.
The Gatewoods from Scott County.
Okay. So mother, Carol Overton.
Right.
Born 27, roundabout Macomb.
Right. That's right.
She was a historical preservationist.
She was.
Here in Jackson.
She
I enjoyed reading about the various things she did.
Yeah.
Died in 2014.
That's right.
And she went to Mississippi College.
That's right.
Okay. You're currently married?
Yeah.
Charlotte Bronner?
That's right.
Okay.
Right.
You can find everything on the internet, Mr. Waller, I'm sorry to say.
No, I don't have any secrets. So,
yeah. Very good.
It's all there. You did your research. That's good.
Well, I really wanted just to save as much of this as we could for the good stuff, which is not. You can't do that with everybody.
Right.
What does your wife do for a living? Does she have a public life?
She has. I guess you would say she's a retired school teacher, but her main in the last 30 years she's been an aerobics instructor. So she's got a class she's had for 35 years that she teaches at the church recreation center, and then she's we're splitting time between Jackson and Oxford, Lafayette County, and she's got a large class she has up there now. So she likes she's written a book, and she's it's not a book, it's more of a pamphlet, but she loves nutrition, exercise, health, and which she ties into spiritual health. So she's got a great testimony.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Did she go to college?
She went to Mississippi State. We finished there in '74. She got her master's in '75.
Okay.
And I went to law school.
All right. So she got her BA and MA from Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
You graduated Mississippi State in '74.
Mm-hmm.
What did you study there?
I finished in business, but I have probably enough for a double major in political science, and I finished the 4 semesters in Spanish, and anyway, it's in business degree.
Okay. You student of history while you?
Oh, I love history. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I want to ask you about that before we wrap up at some point. Just from your very distinct position in yourself being a part of Mississippi history. Then you went to Mississippi School of Law at Ole Miss in 1970. Graduated in '77.
Right.
Any sort of specialty or focus when you were in law school?
Just I knew from probably junior high I wanted to come and practice law with my dad, and it was a general practice, so I didn't have necessarily a pinpoint focus.
Yeah. Well, take me through the years directly after law school. What did you do first?
Started practice in May of '77, but while I was back then, Ole Miss had a diploma privilege, so I did not take the bar.
Okay.
But I had actually started doing research and writing and attending trials, all the way through law school. So I was in there, and so we practiced together until for about 20 years, and then I had unsuccessfully run for a chancery court position in '82, and I was interested in the judging, and I had recently secured an appointment as a municipal judge for here in Jackson, and that was in '95. And so in '96, this is kind of an interesting story. I was sitting in my office, and he comes in my office and he says, Bill, there's something going on with the Supreme Court. I said, what are you talking about? And he says, well, Dan Lee, who was then the Chief Justice, he said a guy named Chet Dillard has qualified against him. And he says that Chet and Dan are best friends. So he says what's up is he thinks that that no one's going to qualify because he's the sitting Chief Justice, and they're going to go through the qualification date, and then Dan Lee's going to withdraw, and then and so he says you ought to jump on that. So I went qualified but by the time I qualified, about the word was out. There's about 3 or 4 others that had qualified, so it was I think a 5-person race, and sure enough, Dan Lee didn't have any intentions of running again. Although he had qualified, he withdrew, and so that was how. And I bested the field of 5, and that was how I got my big job in the judiciary. So that's where that all started.
So how long were you on the Jackson Municipal?
Just a year and a half. I had started in January of '95, and I withdrew in the summer of '96 when in the campaign. I just decided. In fact, I actually used that to my advantage, because all the other people in the race were judges, and I would say, I think being a judge is so important that it shouldn't be conflicted with the campaign. So I gave up my judgeship to focus on the campaign. So I actually used that, but that was, and they were sitting judges, so full time. I was a part time judge.
Yeah.
It was, but I'm glad I did. I think that was a good talking point.
Yeah. So you ascend to the Mississippi Supreme Court in '96.
That's right. Well, actually, '98. The election was in '96, and I didn't actually take office till January '98.
Okay. And you were there for how long before you become Chief Justice?
Became Chief Justice in January of '09. So that would be 11 years, I guess.
All right.
Is that right? My math right? January
Close
'98.
enough.
Close enough, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's just roll back. What made you want to be a lawyer from junior high?
I'm going to tell you, the Beckwith case was what really got my interest. I was the janitor here, and I mean, this is the office that he did it from. Courthouse is across the street, so I'd come in here at night, and there's all these people going in and out, and the press and all that. It was fascinating, and so that's really where I got my interest. Just to boil it all down, though I liked it. I mean, it's always. I've always had an interest in it, and so I liked it, and that's where it started.
Yeah. So, Evers murdered June of '63.
That's right, 12th.
June 12th, '63. You were 11.
That's right.
Okay. Do you have any recollection what it was like? And you can think of either when Evers was killed, or you can think of when your father was putting the case together as prosecutor, or.
Well, it was a huge event. I mean, there was I think the London Times. There was. This was international. I mean, there was the courtroom was probably 20% full of nothing but journalists. I mean, from all over the world, and it was just a steady stream coming in and out of the office, and I can just remember. I mean, I can remember that was like, that was like big deal, because there'd never been a serious prosecution of a civil rights crime, in my opinion. There had been others, but Emmett Till, there'd been others, but this one was really going. I mean, this one was, and he got 2 hung juries, 7 to 5, and which allowed the case to be ultimately brought to a conviction by Bobby DeLauder in, was that '89? Is that right? Yeah.
Okay.
So had he not gotten a hung trial, had there been a defense verdict like there was in Emmett Till, that'd been it. Outside of finding some federal violation to independently do the prosecution on it. So it was a big deal. I mean, it was a noteworthy event. If you think about, if you read any on there was a book by Doyle written on, they call it The American Insurrection.
Oxford.
You read
Yeah.
some of that?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
just a year before, in '62, there'd been a virtual war on campus over integration. So this was following in the shadow of that, and so this was, what's Mississippi going to do this time? So it was a big deal, man. It was so, but I didn't remember, there wasn't any. It was newsworthy because of all the public attention, but I don't remember. Nobody picketed the office. Nobody picketed the courthouse. There wasn't any Klan marches. All that just didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't anything like, the Woolworth counter where they dump stuff on people's heads, or they cut his tires, or we had nothing happen to us, being the family, or to him. Now I'm sure he got some mail I got mail when I was Chief Justice. I mean, when you're a public figure, you get, for lack of a better word, crackpots will take little shots at you, but that's nothing. I mean, that happens today. No matter what, you probably even get it.
It comes with the territory.
It comes with the territory. So, but there wasn't anything like a organized or disorganized resistance. There wasn't anything that would have kept him from doing his job to the best of his ability.
And his job was he was the district attorney of Hinds County? Or
Well,
Jackson?
then it was Hines Madison and Hines Madison and Rankin, I think. They changed it to Yazoo when I started practicing law. Or maybe it was. I'll say that it was a multi-county district. Now today it's just a single county.
Right. Okay.
But
and what's that? So you don't remember any sort of like threats against his life or anything like that? Do you remember a police? I mean, since we are looking, I mean, it's right. It would have been right there out the window. Was there a large police presence around the trial? Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've just read about how the mob-proof Hinds County Jail was where everyone, sort of every defendant at least, was brought.
Right.
And there was often, National Guard presence around the jail. But you don't remember anything like that.
The interesting thing, he, if coming out of the admission of gone blank, the Ole Miss deal. There was, this was a very sophisticated investigation. I mean, the Jackson police were within hours of the murder. They were on the scene, and they found the projectile, and they found the rifle, and they took a picture of the rifle and put it in the clearing ledger, and a guy in Itabena. I mean, if you read all that, I mean, it's really fascinating.
But
I mean,
tell us,
this was back before cell phones or computers or anything, and they got the guy in Itabena where he got, they traced down the scope was bought in Grenada, and FBI matched his prints, Beckwith's prints, because the guy sold it to Beckwith. They matched his prints in Washington. Well, I was involved in I was a municipal judge for a year and a half. I was on the Supreme Court for 21 years. I can't count the number of cases on one hand where fingerprints broke the case. I mean, it's real rare. And if you think about back then, before there was any technology, I mean, that was amazing. And then he put a trial together, and let's see. They indicted Beckwith in July, and they had the first trial middle of January, 6 months later. 50 witnesses, 60 items of evidence. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. I mean, today, you tell that to a lawyer today, and they go, "Oh, I can't do that," and they got cell phones, you got internet, you got, and so, and they got up, and they got real close. They didn't have discovery back then, but you're familiar with that. And so what happened? They in the defense case, there was 3 police officers from Greenwood, surprise witnesses that testified that on the day of the afternoon of the murders that they were with Beckwith, and he was target practicing in Leflore County. And that was the alibi. And so obviously. It was, without, and of course they argued that was unbelievable. It is unbelievable, but the jury, there wasn't, they had 5 of the jurors that went for the defense verdict. It's a real interesting case to read about. Ross Barnett, who was the lead of the segregationists, would come through the courtroom shaking hands with everybody, and before the trial going on, and there was a lot of efforts. I would call them PR kind of efforts to try to influence the jury, but there was no protest and no death threats, and so from that standpoint, that really was a watershed event, and I think that helped ease the transition into the new world, so to speak, when he became governor in '72. So he was sort of the first governor not to respect some of the racist practices that had taken place in the past.
So you worked on your father's campaign.
I did,
for governor.
very much so. Yeah.
You're in a great position to speak. Was the Beckwith trial, was it a liability, or did it help him get elected?
I don't ever remember it being a liability, and I don't know that it necessarily was an advantage, because she didn't run on a, if you elect me, I'm going to appoint blacks and I'm going to be fair like I did with everyone. This was more of a race. He positioned a race against the machine that was in control of government and was stifling Mississippi growth, and he called it the Capitol Street Gang, and he which was a lot of truth in the, and so you had the, if this is a fair way to describe it, the disenfranchised white people sort of revolted against the country club. It was more of a, it's almost more of a class race than it was a racial.
A race.
Yeah, right, race, right. But Charles Evers ran as an independent, and
right.
No, there wasn't a Republican candidate, and I think he got a couple of 100,000 votes. So, from that standpoint, my dad, there was a lot of people he didn't convince he was fair to everybody.
Uh-huh.
But listen, I had a lot of interface with Charles Evers, and he thought my dad was great. Even though we ran against him, but and of course, I don't know. You really get deep in this Mississippi politics. Charles Evers got Cochran elected to Congress. Did you know that?
Oh no.
You hadn't read about that?
No. Tell me about that.
And I don't have the years exactly, but before Cochran, Thad Cochran, this is not Senate, this is Congress.
Right.
Before he was elected to Congress, Mississippi was all Democrat, top to bottom. This was old South Democrat, and so there was a group of people that got Evers to run as an independent, and so you had Maurice Danton, who was a Democratic nominee, and you had Charles Evers as an independent, and you had Thad Cochran as a Republican. Well, Evers pulled a couple of 100,000 votes, and it was from Danton. So Cochran got elected to Congress, and that's basically where it all started. So you can look the dates up, but that's absolutely true. There's no had Evers not been in the race, Danton would have been elected. No doubt about it. It was, so all of the political intrigue with Cochran and African Americans is true. It goes way back, and when he had the race with Chris McDaniels, and some of the Republicans were jumping up and down and saying he's recruiting blacks to cross over or whatever. It was true, they were, because they liked Cochran. He was a good guy, and they were scared of McDaniels. They thought, but that was true. Yeah. That's all true.
McDaniels, as I recall, was sort of a Tea Party.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He'd make Trump look like a liberal. Yeah. He was Tea Party, no doubt about it.
Well, thinking back to your life in the years we're describing, did you have any conception of the Highway Patrol? Did it sort of register in your mind at all?
I just looked at it as just another part of state government.
Yeah.
It never had when he was governor, they were obviously around us all the time because of the security aspect of it. Mm-hmm. There's George Pollan, who was one of the personal security people. He wound up being sheriff of Calhoun County, that's below Oxford, and he's just friendly as he can be with me now. And he supported me when I ran in 2009. Those guys are you get their confidence, and they're loyal as they can be, and maintain friendships, and they're really I had a lot of good relationships with the Highway Patrol. And R.O. Williams is a great example. He's just he's an African American, he's a black, but they really hired some good folks. They're really quality people. And I'm not saying they all were, and they weren't, but if you read about the American insurrection, there was a lot of them that weren't back then in '62. But,
well, that was my sort of one of the questions I had, in the time, up until 1968, and with few exceptions, one man named Thomas Butler Birdsong, Tom Birdsong, was the
Commissioner of Public Safety.
Commissioner of Public Safety in charge of the Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
Long before that, he was a National Guardsman.
That's right.
Going back to the 19 teens.
Yeah. That's right.
So, did you have any idea who he was?
I really didn't. I had met him, and I knew he was, but to be honest with you, I really didn't. And I guess I really don't have a good perspective now, but until I read the American Insurrection, I didn't really. That was my first inside look at him.
Yeah.
And he was, my opinion, you've read the book, my opinion, he was at least, he was in there with the marshals, and he was at least giving some verbal support to what was going on. But he had at least it looked to me like he didn't have any cooperation of the Highway Patrol. You had a lot of meddling with the lieutenant governor and the governor and state senators, and they didn't get a consistent direction from anybody. There's a lot of meddling with it, and I'm not saying he's not at fault, but it looked to me like he was an older person that was overwhelmed, is what it looked to me like. But that's not. But he was at least sitting there trying to, in his way, was trying to. Like he would have them in security, and then Paul Johnson would drive up and say, "Y'all go home. We're not going to do this anymore." But if he had been a strong leader and had been full health, then he would have asserted his authority stronger than he did. But that I really don't. I really don't have. Other than I know that he was there a long time, and I've never read a lot about him. But the Highway Patrol, that was a very, very poor showing at the integration of Ole Miss, no doubt about it. They didn't do anything to try to keep the outside. Their job was to seal the campus off, and they didn't do it. They didn't even try to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me. You seem like you've really, in hindsight, as sort of a student, learned more about something. You were 10.
Oh yeah,
when it happened.
Yeah.
But that's something that you've read up on.
Yeah, I wasn't up there. See, I was here in Jackson. 11 is not a lot of difference, but anyway, it was because I was here. I remember, and I wasn't up there when that happened. But my National Guard tour started in January '75 in the Oxford unit, and so I started getting. The Oxford unit was the first unit on campus.
Right. Okay.
And they're the ones that actually secured or provided the backup to the marshals until everybody else could get there. They were the commander of the unit, Shooky Faulkner, had his arm broken in 3 places by a brick, and I think they had. I'm just trying to go from memory in the book, Gold's book. I think they had 29 of them were injured just getting to the campus. Yeah. And so I've heard stories as soon as I joined the unit about we still had some unit members that had actually been there and had done that. So, if you look at that, they were, of course, President Kennedy wasn't sure of the reliability of the National Guard, and so he federalized them.
Right.
And then nobody really knew how they were going to perform until they were actually, and they did well. From what I understand, now there's in Doyle's book, he talks about Faulkner had to, as they say, read the riot act to some of them that didn't want to go, but so far as I know, there wasn't any of them that left or put their weapons down or anything. Yeah.
Well, so much of what the lawsuit in the 70s to desegregate the Highway Patrol, obviously that's coming in the aftermath of the Jackson State shooting.
Right.
Which we can talk about in a moment, was a general allegation that the highway patrol was anti-black,
Right.
Racist.
Right.
Did you have any sort of conception of that growing up?
I don't, and I don't, but I think that was a leadership more than the individual highway patrolman. I don't think they recruited racists. I think they were responding to whatever the leadership was. And I don't think there was an independent racist movement coming out of the highway patrol. I think they were more responding to their leadership.
Yeah. So when you say leadership, who do you have?
Well, the governor down, yeah.
Governor, someone like Birdsong.
Yeah. Well, Birdsong was. I mean, he was there. He was there under Barnett and Johnson, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so you gotta. For whatever it was, he didn't. He apparently didn't provide. But this is kind of hypothetical, and we don't know. But it looks to me like it was more of a leadership issue than an individual issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, if they'd been, if someone had harassed an African American motorist, and they'd been disciplined and they'd been told we're treating everybody the same, I don't think you would have seen some of the bad acts that you saw at Ole Miss or at other times.
Yeah, I mean, that's June of 1963 is such an interesting time because you've got the Evers murder, you've got George Wallace standing in the schoolhouse door in Tuscaloosa,
Orville Forbes in Arkansas.
Forbes, and then you have at the same time Fannie Lou Hamer is in jail in Montgomery County,
right,
in Winona.
Right.
And one of the only cases I can find of a highway patrolman actually being brought to court on allegations of, unspeakable racial brutality, racist brutality, ends up actually in the Oxford District Court. And it's one patrolman standing alongside as defendants, I think the sheriff and maybe some deputies. But the government, the federal government, does prosecute, and she takes the stand alongside the sort of freedom movement activists alongside her, who went through the jail at the same time, and they can't get the jury to convict, basically.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Well, they couldn't get the. Fannie Lou Hamer wouldn't have said good for them, right? They couldn't get the jury to. The charge, I guess, was probably just assault,
Yeah,
and something
yeah,
like that. But
yeah.
they couldn't get the jury to convict.
Or anything that was stick or long jail time or anything.
I know. Yeah, there was not. Well, so I should clarify. Hamer wasn't on trial. It was
right. There's someone that had attacked her.
Right.
I guess.
The people who had attacked them.
Right.
I don't guess that you remember. I mean, historians don't remember that trial. I'm sure you don't remember that.
No idea. That's new one on me. I didn't even realize. Of course, I know she was a great bold leader, but I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah.
Particularly.
Well, I'll send you that a book where you can read the trial transcript from that one. It's a sad case to be sort of forgotten to history, but it's a good one. I would love to ask you about sort of your role in the criminal justice system. So you are a municipal judge for a short time, and then you quickly ascend to the High Court. Did you see police misconduct as a judge at all in the years that you were a part of it?
Not on a large scale. I can't even give you a specific incident, but it was of that, but not. I never saw it on a large scale.
Yeah. Do you think that the desegregation of law enforcement in Mississippi on it, not just in the patrol, but in a broader sense, do you think that played any role? Do you think that changed relations with communities and the police?
Absolutely. In fact, coming on the heels of the Beckwith trial, the then Mayor Alan Thompson started hiring African Americans in the Jackson Police Department, and that's the effect that it had. And I think it's got. It's got to have a positive effect on treating everybody the same, and we're all in this together. We're going to enforce the law, and we're going to do the right. Sure, it's got to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another big thing that happened during your father's term was, of course, what we might call the prisoners' rights movement.
Right.
Which in Mississippi manifested in Gates v. Collier.
Oh, yeah.
You familiar with the
case?
case?
Very much so, yeah.
You want to tell folks at home sort of two-sentence synopsis of Gates v. Collier?
Well, there was I think Gates was paralyzed with a shank in the back, and there was a trustee was supposed to provide safety, and so the lawsuit is about the trustee system was improper, unlawful, wasn't effective in protecting the prisoners, and it was corrupt, and so there was a settlement by the state with that, and then my father was governor, and he brought in the first what he considered, I think the guy's name was Cook, first professional superintendent, and they started hiring prison guards instead of using trustees, and so that was a kind of a transition in that, and yeah, I think we're one of the things that we did when I was on the court. We adopted some new rules of criminal procedure, and there's a lot of press still ongoing about that, because one of the things that we tried to do is to change the bail rules where you didn't have to necessarily put up a bond to get out if you were, if you met certain, you had a job or a home or whatever. So because a lot of people were kept in jail for extended periods of time for no reason other than just poverty, because they weren't necessarily escaping. And that's still not maybe appreciated in the system maybe as much as it should be, but you want to philosophically, at least the way I said, you want to incarcerate people that you're afraid of and not people that you don't necessarily like, and that's kind of so in a sense of the word, that struggle is going, and it's we were able to when I was Chief Justice take the drug courts statewide in every circuit district, and that's just a beautiful example of saving a life, so to speak. You're taking someone that's facing a felony jail time for a drug-related offense, and you put them in a long-term treatment program, and they, lo and behold, they're sober and they're working and they're taking care of their family, and I mean that's what prison should be about on a broader sense, instead of just locking them up. And we've got to have a better system of rehabilitating people, and the drug courts is about the best I've ever seen. I mean, they come out, they don't have a criminal record, and because of the length of it, they can the recidivism rate is very low versus the general prison population. Oh my goodness, we fought. One of the earliest things is to try to get some legislation for them to have an ID or a driver's license. I mean, they were letting people out of prison that had no ID, no driver's license, no anything. Well, you can't even cash a check if you don't have an ID, and no wonder they were coming back in the system so fast. So there's been a lot of, I think the MacArthur Foundation's big. It's been a big part in some of the reform, but we got a long way to go. But it's cheaper pay somebody to watch them than it is to try to have a meaningful process to reclaim a life and get them back in society. A lot of them, when they go through, and my most personal interface is with drug court, but people that abuse drugs are don't necessarily have lives on track. They hadn't had jobs, they hadn't had to take care of anybody, and it brings structure. You're in front of a judge twice a week. Well, have you got a job yet? Mm-hmm. Are you making are you paying your child support? Now that structure is really is rehabilitation in itself. In that. So
when did the drug court reforms take place? Do you recall?
Judge Keith Starrett, he's a federal judge, started it, and I would have to give you the specific time. I'm going to say the late 80s.
Okay.
And I came on the court in 98, and by then they had legislative authorization, and when I became chief in 2019, we brought the last 5 or 6 circuit court districts in where we had the whole state covered with the program.
Yeah. Was there any local resistance to that?
Well, the only resistance would be, and it's the same inertia that you have in any kind of government. I've got enough to do, and I'm not getting paid for this. And I'm probably veering off now in some dangerous territory. But now there really wasn't, other than just the usual resistance you have with any kind of change. So and they're not judges. They still gripe today because they don't get any extra pay, and it's additional work. And it's a lot of work. But those that are in it and committed to it love it. In fact, they wouldn't do anything else. If they could do that full time, they would, because they get it. But it takes, some people are geared that way, and some people aren't.
Was there one sort of channel of the argument that was, more just, you said you can't just lock them up, right? Were there anybody saying, no, we've got to lock them up?
Oh yeah, there was. We had. I had a couple of cases when I came on the court, and I can't give you the size. I'd have to look them up and send them to you, where we would get first offense, 30-year sentence. That wasn't first offense. It was a third offense, but it was a small amount. The third was a small amount because of the 3 strikes and you're out rule. And we reversed it, said you've got to have some. Yeah, there was, and there's probably judges today that believe in some cases philosophically that if you break the law, you get the maximum sentence in my court.
Yeah.
And I think that the studies have shown that the sentences for people that are really not a deterrent, because the people who commit the crimes don't think about the sentences. And so all you're doing is you're warehousing somebody. But we got a lot of work to do on that for sure. Yeah.
Well, I wonder what the term sort of mass incarceration means to you.
Well, I guess, I don't know, but I guess it just means everyone that commits a crime gets the maximum time. I don't know. I don't know. Tell me, what do you call the definition?
Historians debate it, right?
Oh, really?
Has it ever not been the case? Has that ever not been the case, right? People tend to say that after about 19, you can see it, right? There's a decarceration trend from about 72 to 74, if I'm not mistaken, maybe like 68 to 72, and then there's a slow leveling out, and then there's just exponential growth starting at about 1980. I would not quote myself on this, but I think the rate of incarceration in Mississippi per 100,000 goes up like 800 or 1,200% in 20 years or something like that. And historians do credit mandatory minimum sentences with driving that up. But it sounds like you were aware at least of the trend that, and I'm certain that like the jails and the prison system would be responding to that, because part of Gates v. Collier was we can't overcrowd prisons anymore, right? We can't. It was about the trustees. It was also about we can't overcrowd
conditions. That's right.
Anymore. That's and in fact, the judge says that you can't even send any more people to Parchment until you fix this.
Right. That's right. That's right.
But I guess when I ask you, like what mass incarceration, as you very rightly said, is a very academic term. But did you detect anything like that happening?
Well, Justin, when my dad was district attorney here, largest metropolitan area in the state, 60 to 68, he says he thinks he had 2 drug crimes, and they were both for prescriptions. Mm-hmm. So what has happened since the drug explosion has happened since 68, and that is a large part of the increased incarceration. And then the 3 strikes and you're out, and the minimum sentences, if you go back, it's all drug related or drug, and so all that's related to it. Nobody knew what to do. I mean, you got this explosion, and you got people dying from overdoses, and you got and it was the legislature's reaction to try to. I mean, the public is clamoring for something to be done, and so lock them up, throw away the key was what the mantra was. And of course, when out of that, then as an alternative came drug courts if the person was nonviolent and people recognized that wasn't. I think most people today recognize that throwing away the key is not a deterrent to the drug problem. Yeah. So drug court has been. It's not a deterrent, but it's been a good alternative treatment of it. Now, if you got violence involved, that takes them out of drug court. But there's a lot of them that are not. But so I mean, I saw it. I mean, I was there when they built. We had private prisons come online. Oh, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 of them were built. Then you had regional jails built. I mean, it was just an explosion of jail space, and a great part of that was directly related to drug convictions. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, but you said that in your time you rewrote the criminal
I didn't do it. Now it was Justice Ann Lamar was chair of the committee, and I sat on every meeting they had, and I participated. And it's the new rules of criminal procedure requiring an initial appearance within 48 hours, appointment of attorney, reasonable bail, the opportunity for. So I'm not going to take credit for it. That happened while I was Chief Justice, and I sat on every freaking meeting that we had and struggled through it for 12 years. We had a committee worked on it 6 years, and then we had it up at the court for 6 years. But it's a good set of rules. We don't have the. I wish we had a better buy-in than we've got across the state. A lot of it. Some people attribute it to the lack of a public defender system, and that may be a part, but you've got some places that have got good public defender systems, and you've got some people that don't. It comes down a lot to the individual. You've got some court-appointed attorneys that are very vigilant in getting their clients released, and you've got some. So I'm not saying we wouldn't be better off if we had a public defense system, but that's not necessarily the reason that the rules are not working as well as they could be or should be right now. If Justice Ann Lamar, she's retired in Senatobia, or Justice Jim Kitchens he's still on the court, but he was very active in it. But I think we got a great set of rules, and I think it was a huge reform initiative for the criminal justice system. And I think in places it's worked real well.
Yeah. Do you ever think about, what your inspirations were around that? Do you credit, your family, your father with anything?
Well, I mean, it's all part of what you brought up, but you just, you recognize that you're just trying to do the right thing. You're trying to, it's more of a management doing business thing than it necessarily is a philosophical thing. I mean, it's not good business just to throw people in jail and keep them there till they rot. I mean, that's not good business. I mean, we don't need to be throwing money away on warehousing people. We need to be about having productive people in society and contributing and having jobs and working.
Yeah. When you say good business, you mean sort of expenditure of public funds?
Yeah.
Okay.
And capital, public capital, people. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It just struck me that you both threw off the inertia, right? You both
Well, tried to. Yeah. I mean, I really tried to. If there was cases, I mean, I really tried to look at them carefully and make sure we didn't have innocent people sitting in jail. I know we do. I mean, it's just a part of it. But I mean, my heart was to try to have a fair system, and so we made a lot of let's see. I think my first legislative initiative was to have a Office of Post-Conviction Relief Counsel, which is the on death penalties, to have an office sitting there to pick up the defendant once the regular trial process is over with. And you make post-conviction relief is where you look at the conviction from the outside to see if the prosecutor covered witnesses up or if the defendant failed to prosecute the case right. You have to have ineffective assistance counsel or whatever. So I thought that was a big step forward for the system. And so we've got DA's pay tied to trial judges. We've got an Office of Criminal Appeals on the appellate level, full-time lawyers. So you've got different counsel from trial counsel that are doing the appeals, which I think it helps with the trial basis because they know that they've got somebody looking over their shoulder that whether they did a good job or not, and that paralleled with the Attorney General's office. So we've got a much better system today. Now Prentice Harrell is a trial judge in Lamar County. That's outside Hattiesburg District, and he talked to supervisors in I think it was Marion County. No, it was Pearl River County into hiring full-time public defenders. I mean, that's the way you do it when you get buy-in from the supervisors, when they see that it saves money and capital and you have a more effective system. That's the way I'd like to see it, local buy-in instead of the state pushing a system down. So we've got, I think Washington County's got full-time, Hinds County does, Jackson County does, Pearl River County does now. So we got counties, and there's hybrid systems across the state. But the important thing is for that person arrested to have counsel within 48 hours is competent to make sure that the process works.
Yeah. My county in Texas actually has just implemented a public defender's office.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's but you can have, unfortunately, well, Hinds County has got a mixed bag. I mean, they've had, when I was a city judge, there was a lady I went to law school with named Beth Davis that was in the public defender's office. Well, she would come into court when I was 2 days or 3 days a week. It rotated. I was part-time, and every day I was there, she'd come in first thing, and she'd hand me a list, and she'd say, Your Honor, this is the people that are in jail that hadn't had appointments yet, and I have them all brought in. We get appointments. And it takes somebody that wants to do something to do that, you know. And I haven't quite figured out how you make people do what they're supposed to do. But if I had a Beth Davis in every county, this whole state would be different. But she's retired. I've retired, but they are around. I mean, there are people doing that. But that's just an example. You've got to be motivated to go to the steps. So she'd go into jail and she'd count people and she'd look at the list, and that's not necessarily a job description. That's what you're supposed to do. But we won't find that going on in every place. And in our new rules, the judges are supposed to review the who's in jail every 9 months or something, and to make sure that people aren't lost in the cracks or whatever. So, so that's an important thing.
Yeah. Well, I apologize for zooming out and sort of doing the criminal justice system as a whole. I realize, though, as you know, having a former judge, that you would have been particularly well positioned to see it. Just a couple last questions about going back to policing, if we can, and law enforcement. I mean, here we are 50 years after the desegregation of the state police,
right?
And the first municipal police departments had only been a few years before that. I think you said Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson was after the Medgar Evers prosecution. They started in Jackson, so you'd say probably the earliest would be in the mid '60s that you started having. I wouldn't say broad scale, but you started having integration in the police departments across
since the 1870s.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
How has the politics of law enforcement changed since then?
Give me a little more where you headed.
I know, it's huge. It's a broad question. I mean, I see that as such, that was a watershed, right? I mean, I guess you could think of that as a racial politics of law enforcement.
Yeah.
And at the time, black Mississippians had been alleging for decades, anti-black, racist law enforcement practices.
Right.
But that changed significantly. The system changed significantly with the desegregation of law enforcement. The last few decades we've seen policing is back in the news in a way that it has had probably been since the 60s and 70s. There's certainly exceptions along the way.
Yeah.
Rodney King in 1992 comes to mind.
Yeah, he changed the world. Yeah.
Right. So I'm wondering how, from your perspective, the politics, the sort of public viewing of policing has changed.
I'm not sure. Other than when I was a city judge, we had good black policemen, we had good white policemen, we had black and white policemen that were not real good from the standpoint of, I thought, doing their job. But there's distrust out there. I mean, if I'm out on the road, I got pulled over by a black highway patrolman within the last year, and he wanted to know what I was doing. I think he's checking to see if I was drinking, which I hadn't been drinking, but I had my calendar in my lap, and I was trying to work as I was driving. I had the appearance, so I said, I'm fine. He says, well, you need to. I wouldn't speed, and says you need to be careful, and he treated me courteously, and he did what he was supposed to do, frankly, because I could have been having a diabetic shock, or I could have been drinking, or he was just another crazy lawyer, that was going down the road. But I think that there's certainly distrust on both sides. I mean, white and black, and it's as you mentioned, since Rodney King, it seems to have maybe gotten a little worse, the attitudes about people and what they're doing. But I don't see a widespread explosion or revolution by either side. And part of it, is saying city of Jackson. It's although the city's I think 80% black, the police department's at least 80% black. So you can't. It's kind of hard to raise the racial animus when you don't. When it's your own people that's there doing it, so to speak.
Yeah.
But so, and I think that probably, had the city of Jackson still been an all-white police department, I think after Rodney King, you would have seen a different reaction here than you have. But because it's people of color arresting people of color, that it makes it different. There's more credibility there, I think. So,
yeah.
But I haven't seen. Just in my personal experience, I'm gonna say that the law enforcement, by and large, are responsible and ethical and doing their job as they see fit.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I got kind of tickled. The police chief here was starting to do roadblocks, and so there was some activist group that was protesting, said this was hard on low income people, but they're black just like you are, and they're just doing their job. People don't need to be driving, don't have driver's license and insurance, and it may be hard on poor people, but that's what the law is. So there wasn't any. Truthfully, in a city, if you want to stop crime, you attack the lines of communication. That's the roads, because that's the only way anybody moves on the roads, and that's where you catch the criminals. Because criminals, they're breaking the houses and they rob people, don't have driver's license, and they don't have insurance. They don't even own the car they're in. So, nor do they own the gun they have in their pockets. So,
yeah.
that's the only way you do it. And there's nothing racial about that. That's just it. If you want to stop crime, that's where you're going to do it.
Yeah.
But and that's probably not. But no, I have not. I can't say that in my heart of hearts I see that there's a huge racial chasm right now over law enforcement or incarceration or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me that Jackson is not alone. The city of Chicago's police department was once, all white by choice and right, people would have said. Jackson, only in the last 50 years, right, have seen representation, black population.
Right.
And you mentioned protesters or sort of activists, and I'm wondering, what you think of sort of especially after 2020, the sort of defund movement that has come up. Has that come? Have you seen any of that in Jackson at all?
Not at all. No effort by either side. I mean, it's. Now I think the city of Jackson Police Department is down about 100 officers, and but I think that's an economic thing. I don't think that was an intentional act on the part of the mayor to defund the police. I think that's practicalities of not having enough money to hire the people, and so interestingly, what they're doing now is they're using the money that they haven't been able to hire policemen with to build renovate the old jail behind the courthouse for misdemeanor people, whole misdemeanor people, because the counties refuse to take anymore because they're full, and so it actually, I think it's going to be a pretty positive thing, because they can actually put some people in jail, even if it's overnight, until I see a judge. It would have. I think that would have a deterrent problem, because that before is, I don't care what I do, I don't care what tickets you give me. Nobody's going to hold me or do anything. So that was an interesting development. But no, I don't think there's been any effort that I know of on any level to defund policemen or from out of that I'm aware of.
Yeah. And no sort of agitation for that
No,
you know of.
No, not even agitation for it. No, not a bit. You know, the most of the crime in Jackson, I think we're per capita leading the nation in murders, is black on black.
Yeah.
It's tragic, but that's a reality. In fact, in practically all the cases, they know each other.
Yeah.
So there's no racial mix there, and then the people that are doing the investigation for the most part are black.
Yeah. Well, the last sort of questions I want to ask, and I told you I'd saved the sort of stories about or questions of history, because you are a student of history.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Lover of history. Do you have a favorite governor that sticks out to you? I know this is a loaded question. I mean, could you say anyone other?
Well, of course, my father would be the top. I think William Winter would be a good. I think J.P. Coleman, in his own way, was, and I served with his grandson on the court, and I think Whitfield was a great governor. There was a lot of prison reform. I think the mental institution was reformed then. I'd like to do some more reading on Hugh White. There's no definitive. There's not been. I wish someone would write a book on. I wish I had time to write a book on him, but he seemed to have a lot of interesting things. I just read. You seen the book The Other Mississippi?
No, I don't think so.
That's David Sanson. He basically put together some historical pieces, but he wrote a piece on Bilbo. It was really funny. There has been no racist is greater impact than Bilbo, but he actually, if you read that chapter, he actually really tried to reform the education system, and he tried to consolidate the universities and move them to Jackson, and he fired really a lot of people that probably didn't even need to be teaching, and so it's just kind of funny. And I'm not naming him as one of my top, but it's interesting. If people are, sometimes you have to dig a little deeper, and that wouldn't have been the reason for me to vote for him. But it's still he had some good thoughts on the education system, which is really humorous, and so that's a few.
Yeah. I want to before we so on the Bilbo so famously there's a riot at the Hinds County Courthouse in 1927, and allegedly sort of self-proclaimed murderer and rapist is on trial. Mob wants to lynch him, do away with the trial. Murphy is the governor. Is the governor at the time, who was filling in for Whitfield, who had died in office.
That's right.
And Bilbo basically wins his second term as governor by sort of lambasting Murphy for using the National Guard to protect the tribe.
Yeah, that's right.
To stop the lynching.
That's right.
So that's it. That sort of like the use of the police to protect a black man's life, and even before they had a definitive suspect, right? The mob was there for even people who were under investigation. But that was, to my mind, that's an example of sort of the politics of law enforcement.
I think Bilbo was a true believer. Don't get me wrong, but he used race as his mechanism for getting in office. There's no question about it. And he had he's an interesting guy. He Sanson. I wish he was still alive, but he did a sketch of all the governors, and he came to Bilbo and he said he interviewed his widow, while she was still alive. And so people, our daughter or somebody said, don't talk about the men because Bilbo was just a known womanizer, So he was interviewing her, and he said that she stopped him at some point, and she said, Bilbo loved the ladies, and the ladies loved him. His witness said that, and he has a picture of Bilbo with three pretty ladies around him.
Wow.
It's funny. It's if you can, we don't have one here, but he did Sansing did a book that's got little sketches of each governor.
Okay.
I wish he was still alive. That his lecture is just, you can't even stay in your seat. It's just really good. He was a good.
Yeah.
But write that down, David Sansing.
Okay.
If you need a source on something that he's done, the other Mississippi. That's the name of the book.
Well, so you named in your, you named reformers like Whitfield and Hugh White. So Hugh White was,
I think he was.
He founded the Highway Patrol.
Absolutely.
For instance.
In fact, he created the highway department, as best I understand. The first paved roads, and he was
Okay.
Well, maybe not the first paved roads, but he made a big effort to try to work on highways and things.
Yeah.
And I think,
J.P. Coleman.
I think White wasn't he the first one that had the really pushed the balance industry and agriculture too. I think, or was that Whitfield?
I don't know.
Anyway, he was. I think they were, in Mississippi terms, they were reformers. Yeah.
Why? So what? Could you, people listening to this 50 years in the future? What does reform mean to you? Is there any short definition for a word that sort of holds so much?
Yeah, reform is good business. I've used that term. Is getting $1 worth of government out of $1 worth of tax money. That's being good stewards, being good shepherds of public money, and of employees of state government to be most effective in allowing citizens all the benefits of being a citizen and being able to travel the roads, access to health care, get a good education, pursue your goals in life. And so that's what I look at as reform, and not somebody that doesn't want to do something because it's too much trouble, or because that's the way we've always done it.
Yeah. Or would you agree that another reason why someone might avoid reform is it hurts their bottom line?
They could, yeah. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. What about your favorite Supreme Court of Mississippi case from the past?
Well, I've gone blank. Let me. Can you mind if I look at something real quick?
No, sure, of course.
You talking about my cases or all cases?
All cases. If there's some in the in the deeper past that you've read over or thought about.
Well, let me look just a second. I think this is embarrassing.
No, not at all. I put you on the spot. I dig around in Supreme Court case files at the Department of Archives and History. It's not a fair question.
Well, let's see. Okay. Tyler Edmonds versus State. It's a 2007 case. Comes out of Octavia County. And it was a 13-year-old that was convicted of capital murder. And it was he and his sister. And she brought him into it thinking that this might deflect her guilt. And there's no doubt the husband was murdered. And so we get the case on appeal. And there's a lot of issues. It's a real interesting case. One of the issues was that this couple was so notorious in the way they fought that Geraldo even did an interview of them, and they wouldn't let that in. And there was some other, the pathologist the theory or what he admitted to, it was a false confession. What the sister said was that both of them pulled the trigger, and there was a pathologist said that based on his examination of the body, that it was plausible that two people could have pulled the trigger. Well, pathologists can't testify to that, and so anyway So this is the other end. I wrote the opinion. I was able to garner a majority in a very conservative court, and so retrial, everything comes in, not guilty. So the guy's a paramedic today. 13-year-old grew up. He's a paramedic today, and he would have been in jail the rest of his life. Yeah, that's a case to me. Now that's so that's forever. That's forever, and it doesn't sound like this. I couldn't remember the name of it offhand, but that was it. No doubt about it.
Wow. So that was 07, you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. EDMONDS versus state. It's a real interesting case. If you sounds to me like you've got plenty to do, but that would be forever. If there was anything that I left after 21 years, that would be the one that I look back on as saying, we did the right thing.
Yeah.
I would have thrown the confession out. I couldn't get a majority, but I mean, you have to picture this. It's a 13-year-old kid. He's sitting in the jail with a detective, and his mother is beating on the door, and he wouldn't let the guy's mother in. 13 years old, and he had his sister. It was his half sister, and he had I don't know, kind of a real different. She was a real controlling person, and he did this. But anyway, when all the facts came in, retrial, not guilty.
Yeah, Bill. I mean, I'm struck because that's such a story. I mean, that dynamic is repeated so frequently.
We're leaving.
All right. Hey, that's my brother Bob. That's Justin
Bob.
Randolph.
Justin Randolph. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. I'll lock up.
We're almost done.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Bob.
Thank you for.
It's his office.
Doing this.
Of course, it'll be yours to keep and to have.
Yeah, that's a great thing you're doing. Nice to meet you. I'll leave the door.
Yeah, I'll do the alarm and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, Bob. Take care.
Yeah.
Wow, that's nice. I'm glad to meet another Waller.
Well, yeah. Well, I have we've got to meet a daughter, and I'm gonna have to slip out. But I mean, if you need some more tomorrow, now I